It is our desire that you will, for the next 30 days, make a decision that your first question to yourself when you find yourself conscious in the morning is, am I on my high-flying disc? Am I on my high-flying disc? What thoughts could I think that would put me there? And then as you're moving through the day, if the next important question that comes to you is, I can feel myself slipping from my high-flying disc. I have 17 seconds to do something about it. Can I stop this slight momentum in this 17 seconds? And then see yourself do it. The next thing that we think you've gathered from this conversation is the understanding of laying new pipes. That you stand as the receiver of whatever is in the pipeline that you have carved out. And that every thought you think that feels uncomfortable when you think it is literally carving out a pathway to unwanted things. Unwanted when you get there and unwanted on your way to getting there. So we think the combination of knowing that you have the ability to get on this high-flying disc, knowing that it's logical that you'll fall off for a while, but that you have 17 seconds to try not to, and that if you apply yourself a little bit, that you have a pretty good chance of staying on, of knowing that as you do 100% of your affirming when you are flying high, at the time that you're sitting around with friends and you're all laughing so much that you can hardly understand what the other one is saying because you're having so much fun, that's the time to make your affirmations to the universe of what you want. When your children are at their happiest, that's the time to affirm to them who you know them to be. When you are feeling at your best, that's the time to keep that momentum going by talking further, by adding more words to it. And any time other than that, be as quiet as you can be. Let no teaching moments ever come from anything less than your high-flying disc. Don't try to teach yourself from anything less than your high-flying disc, and don't try to teach anybody else from anything less than your high-flying disc. And then finally, the most significant of all of that, we want you to be easy with yourselves about it and to say anytime you are aware that you have slipped and that you are not on your high-flying disc, oh good, I embrace this clarifying moment. I appreciate this clarifying moment. Because what you're going to discover is you can have this lovely dance mostly on the high-flying disc. But even on the high-flying disc, there are going to be more things that you're asking for. Because this is an inevitable fact of the eternal beingness that is you. You are never, ever going to get it done. Ever. There's never going to be a moment in time that new desires are not pulsing from you. And so there's never going to be a time that there is not a potential gap between what you're doing right now and who you've actually become. As you embrace that, as you accept that eternal nature, as it's all right for you when you're in a step one moment, and as you're appreciating the step two moment that Source is doing, as we have that wonderful wind at your back, as you acknowledge that step one and step two have already taken place, as someone said so brilliantly just now, without even your conscious awareness or notice of it in many cases. But you are putting your undivided attention upon step three, which is getting on that high-flying disc. People who are watching you are going to begin to come to you wanting to know what you have figured out. What is it that you are doing differently? And we would encourage you to keep it really general and really light with them. We would say things to them such as, I just decided to chill more. I've just decided to get a better night's sleep. I've just decided to get up in the morning and get off on a better foot. I've just decided to direct my thoughts toward more things that feel good. And I've discovered what a magnificent world this is. I love this world and all of the people in it. And I'm finding so many things in every day to praise and appreciate. And I think that's what's made the difference for me. And little by little, your paradigm shift will spread outward until others are experiencing their paradigm shift. But that will make no difference to your world because you have already firmly planted yourself on the high-flying disc. So you're going to live happily ever after anyway, you see. But once you have firmly implanted yourself on that high-flying disc and others are observing you and you're wisely explaining what you are doing, simply stating it, more and more and more of this magnificent world will join all of us on that high-flying disc. And what could be more fun than having more fun? There isn't anything that's broken. And anyone that's not on the high-flying disc, even if it's you, nothing's gone wrong with that. It's all part of the clarifying process. So we don't want to leave you in this place of judgment or evaluation about you or anyone else and what disc they're on. But we do think it's nice to have a preference that you understand that you have some measure of control about. And we believe that in this moment you do. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, you may not remember very much of this. But after 2 or 3 days of doing the one simple thing of reaching for that high-flying disc, your own personal life is going to demonstrate for you over and over and over again all of the components of what we talked about here today. It's going to be a really wonderful month coming up, and the month following that even better. Because once the manifestations start rolling in response to the new pipes that you have laid, then it becomes even more fun because the manifestations reinforce what you know. The better it gets, the better it gets. So we leave you with one last encouragement. Don't flaunt any of this to anyone. Just be the happy person that you are and let law of attraction rendezvous you with those who get that, who understand that. We promise you, you didn't come to figure this out so that you could take others who don't understand it to a place of understanding it. Just for a month, you understand it. Later on, when you're really stable, when there's no chance of wherever they are moving you from where you are, then you can have your teaching moments. One last thing. You're really going to like this. The only moment that is an effective teaching moment is when you are on the high-flying disc, and so is your student. We've been telling you, you've been listening to us for a while, haven't you? We can tell because you're up to speed. We can feel you coming right along with us. So we're going to make this introduction brief before we turn it over to the madness of your world. So, as you're exploring the variety that surrounds you and you're launching these rockets, there is this expansion that is taking place within you. And the question that we want to ask all day, every day is, are you keeping up with your own expansion? And the answer is yes if you feel wonderful, not so much if you are not feeling wonderful. You can tell by the way you feel. The way you feel is an indicator of one thing and one thing only. It's an indicator of you keeping up with your own expansion. It's an indicator of whether you are in this moment perceiving whatever it is that you are giving your attention to in the same way that the source within you is perceiving it. So when you care about how you feel, you're coming into perfect alignment with who you really are. And nothing short of that will be enough for you. So if you've been listening to us for a while, you've been hearing us talking about law of attraction, and you've been hearing us talking about launching these rockets, and we've been telling you that you've been sending out a vibrational version of what you want, and that the source within you is standing in this vibrational reality. We've given it the name the vortex. In fact, we wrote an entire book about the vortex because we wanted to get your attention upon this vibrational reality that you have created that really is who you are, this vibrational version of you to which you want to achieve vibrational alignment. We so want you to know about that vibrational reality because we also want you to know that anything short of being a vibrational match to that vibrational reality, where source stands, where you have evolved to, anything short of that is a diminishment of your moment and doesn't have to be. You get to have all that you've asked for. You just have to figure out how to vibrationally do that. So then we began explaining to you that while there is this vibrational version of you, of all that you want, that when and only when you find vibrational alignment with that vibrational version. For example, if you've been asking for more money and you feel shortage today, maybe even afraid because a big bill came and you can't pay it, that feeling in your gut that you would describe as fear or uneasiness or disappointment, that feeling is your indicator that you're not up to speed with the money that's in your vibrational reality. The money that's in your vortex still stands there ready to be realized by you. But the fear in your belly is your indicator that you're not up to speed with it, and so it can't cross into your experience. It can't become realized by you. Now, creation is just about that. We want you to understand that all creation is about vibrational alignment. So now we want to say to you that every thought that you offer, whether it's something wanted or not wanted, creates a vibrational version of it that in the beginning does not have enough momentum to actualize into your experience. You've launched a lot of rockets of wanted and unwanted, and some of them have more momentum than others. But how they show up in your experience, how often they come, how steadily they're there, and how they feel when they get there is all about the momentum, which is all about the air time. It's all about the think time. It's all about the talk time. It's all about the attention time. Biggest word, it's all about the focus that you have been giving to them, you see. So that's why we now want to talk to you about your point of attraction, because you have laid the pathways to all kinds of things, wanted and unwanted. The question is, which of those pipelines is wide open and delivering a lot of payload to you, and which of those pipelines is closed and not giving you anything? So we began talking about this point of attraction, reaching for different things to call it. For a while we called it the grid. No one really liked that word, the grid. But the grid is sort of a framework that will be filled in later with the details that you will call real life reality. It's sort of like the frame of the house before you put the roof on, before you put the walls up, before you put the pretty stuff in it. So you're standing in your point of attraction all the time. Now we've evolved this analogy to say to you that this grid is spinning because your point of attraction is gathering cooperative components, meaning gathering the components that equal who you are, and that there is a vibrational spinning grid that you could liken to the emotions on your emotional scale. In other words, there's that high-flying grid that feels like love and passion, eagerness, and there's that low-flying grid that feels like despair, grief, fear, and then there's the overwhelming grid. It occurred to Esther the other day that it's like the 7 dwarfs. There's happy and grumpy, dysfunctional, passive aggressive. We're up to about 200 dwarfs now. But you know which grid you are. You know where you are. If ornery people seem to be everywhere you go, you just kind of got to admit that you're on the ornery disc. And you're having the ornery meeting with those others who have gathered there. So we're going to be talking here today about what you've got going on. You've got some habits of thought that aren't serving you. You've got some habits of thought that are serving you. You've got some dormant beliefs that don't affect you very often, but every now and again one of them is activated by something you see or something that you hear, and then it begins to affect you for a little while. And we really want to call your attention to this really important thing, and that is your point of attraction is now. It's right now. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It only matters what you're doing vibrationally now. And you can get so that What happened yesterday doesn't affect what you're offering vibrationally now, but you've got to understand that you are a vibrational being emanating a signal, and you've got to understand that your thoughts are the reason for that signal, what you focus upon, and you got to understand that the way you feel is an indication of how that blends with who you really are and what you really want. But most of all, we want you to leave this gathering knowing for sure that you can manage to have control over what disc you are on.